Hello, I'm Rob Hallam and welcome to another edition of Car File. Now in this week's programme we've got a BMW Audi showdown, pitching them head to head, so hopefully at the end of the programme you'll have a better idea about which one will be best suited to you. So Richard Hammond will be looking at the relaunch of the Audi A4 and the BMW 3 Series, and I'll be test driving the Audi A4 Avant, so keep watching.
Join me, if you will, on a trip back in time, a trip back before the Subaru Impreza, before the Mitsubishi Evolution series, before the BMW M3, before, in other words, the true sports saloon, to a time when the hottest point-to-point cars were the Lotus Sunbeam and the very early Golf GTIs. And then imagine meeting this for the very first time. It must have been good. The body shape didn't change, not even an inch, right from the very beginning to the end of production in 1991. This is a 1988 version, resplendent in this pearlescent white paint that was an optional extra, and it cost £1,000, even back then in the 1980s. With a little over 200 bhp available, there's no shortage of power, but it's how it puts it down that makes the Quattro really special. And this, the S4, is one of the very latest to wear the Quattro badge. Sure, things have moved on a bit. It's now got over 260 brake horsepower lurking under that bonnet, but then it is up against some pretty stiff competition nowadays compared to anything that was around in the 1980s. Wow, and straight away, what a difference a decade or two makes. Whereas the old Quattro just screams its performance potential at you. With today's S4, you've really got to actually start to explore it before you discover just how much this car really is capable of. Sure, it doesn't offer anything like the raw brutality of the Quattro of the 80s, but then it can't afford to. We're more demanding today. We expect a better compromise between sophistication and performance. This, the S4 Quattro, is the latest and I suspect the beginning of yet another line of Quattros. At £37,000, it is undeniably a true performance bargain.
Well, it may be winter, but here in the south of France, it's another glorious day. Blue skies, sunshine, temperatures of some 60 degrees or so. So what has forced us to come all this way? Well, it's a new car. Now, when BMW launch a new model, not for them to rush out that model with all the variants available straight away. They like to dangle a carrot or two. They bring out the saloon first, and you get the feel and the like and the look of that. And then they bring out the coupe version. So what's next on the list for the BMW 3 Series? Well, it's this, the new 3 Series Touring. So if my arithmetic is correct, this is model number 3 out of probably 5, with the convertible and M models still to come. Now, when the 3 Series Saloon was launched last year, it unsurprisingly received universal acclaim. It's selling well, and the Coupe is selling well too. So what do BMW expect with the Touring? Well, big things. They're anticipating an increase in sales of some 70% over the previous Touring model, which will be no mean feat. The very first BMW Touring was brought out way back in 1971 and managed, well, quite respectable sales at the time, even though it was a radical design. It was 20 years later that the Touring re-emerged again, and now we're on to a 4th generation, and a very desirable car it is too. As ever with cars, first impressions count, and the 3 Series Touring, quite frankly, doesn't disappoint. It's a very, very stylish car with some very nice features on it. For instance, we've seen this before on the 5 Series, but it comes to the 3 Series now, the split rear tailgate, useful for just throwing a few bags into the back there, and of course that goes down and the whole thing opens up here. Now, the entrance into the load area here has been increased by some 10 centimetres. Doesn't sound a lot, but could make a difference if you're carrying bulky items. And total capacity back here has also been increased to 1,345 litres, which is, say BMW, quite a bit bigger than the Audi A4 Avant is. Ouch! Now, there's also an extra 12-volt power supply socket back here in the boot too, particularly useful if you want to plug a fridge in or something like that. I mean, how many people do you know who have fridges in the back of their cars? In past years, BMW have been criticised for their lack of standard equipment. It wasn't that long ago you had to buy a radio, but no longer. The list of toys is high, including air conditioning, airbags all round, electric front windows, remote alarm, sports steering wheel, ABS, alloy wheels, and of course, a radio cassette. You get all that and more on the 318 SE and 320 Diesel SE models, with even more goodies on the 328. Now, we haven't come all this way to enjoy the blue skies and sunshine, nice though it is. The roads around this part of the south of France are fantastic, and this car needs to be driven. At launch, there are 3 variants of the new 3 Series Touring available. There's the 318 and 328 petrol models. BMW's new 320 diesel engine as well joins the lineup, which has had some rave reviews recently. Also joining the lineup soon is the 330 diesel. Now, I'm no fan of diesel engines, but the 330 really is a very good unit. It's powerful, it's economical, it's refined, and most importantly, it's quiet. The 318 uses BMW's well-known 1.9 engine that we've already seen in the likes of the Saloon and the Z3, to name just a few cars it's been used in. It produces 118 brake horsepower with 133 pounds-feet of torque. Now, that should be enough for most situations, but I can expect it to struggle if the car was fully laden, or if you're going around twisty mountain roads like we are today. However, it's pretty good. It just needs a bit of revving, a bit of work on it to make rapid progress. The 318 will accelerate to 60 in around 11 seconds with a top speed of 126 miles an hour. The 320 diesel is even quicker, doing the sprint in 10 seconds using its 4-cylinder turbo engine. Power is 136 brake horsepower, top speed 129 miles an hour. But of course, what you buy a diesel for is economy, and it really doesn't disappoint. 38 to the gallon urban, 60 miles per gallon extra urban, and almost 50 to the gallon on the combined figures, and that means a touring range of nearly 700 miles to a tank. Even more if you have a very dainty right foot. It handles well, it remains composed when cornering, and never feels like it's going to bite back at you for having too much fun. Well, once again BMW have come up with a car that's very difficult to find a fault with. It's comfortable, it's stylish, it's easy to drive and a lot of fun. And it's a car that you'll want on your driveway, I'm sure of that.
Well, that's it for part one, but don't worry if you've not made your mind up yet, because there's loads more gorgeous German engineering coming up in part two. So we'll see you in a bit.
There's no point in denying it. The coupe sector is the fashion end of the car industry. It's the shiny plastic handbag sector. It's the place where beauty is more than skin deep. It's an entire reason for being. And it's a place where we buy cars not for their performance or their ability, but for the way they look. It's a beauty parade. It's a complicated business if you've got around 20 to 25,000 pounds burning a hole in the pocket of your jeans and you're looking for a car. If it's outright performance you want, then you're likely to be looking at something like Subaru's Impreza or the Mitsubishi Evo. If you want sports car thrills, then there are loads of little rear-wheel drive roadsters like the Mazda MX-5, or for a little more, Honda's new S2000. But no, you want a car that's a little more familiar, that echoes perhaps a more sensible choice but still stands out in the company car park. Though not too much, because it doesn't want to upset the bosses. In fact, what you want is a car that your fleet manager is going to let you have. Enter the BMW 3 Series Coupe. The two 6-cylinder versions are first to be available, the 323 and the 328. The 318 with 4 cylinders is available in the autumn. The 323 confusingly has a 2.5 litre straight 6. This, the 328, has a 2.8 litre straight 6. Classic BMW engine, huge bucket loads of torque and a glorious straight 6 bellow to accompany it. The driving position is neutral. You feel very much in command with all the controls exactly where they should be. A couple of criticisms, both to do with the steering though. It's very precise and very direct and quite communicative, as you'd expect from a BMW. But it could do, I think, with a quicker rack. You do have to put in an awful lot to get a response. And this wheel is enormous. It's like driving a tractor. It could do with something a little bit smaller just to make it feel like it's a little more eager to turn in. At the moment, it just follows the corners rounds rather than turns into the bends with vigour. And then it has a whole barrage of technological wizardry to help you avoid throwing the thing at the scenery. There's ASC plus T, ABS, SSC, the list goes on and on. Basically, we're talking traction control, and probably one of the most advanced traction control systems on the market today. Bearing in mind this is a rear-wheel drive car with quite a lot of power, you could get into a little bit of trouble. And to illustrate the point of just how effective that traction control system is, try turning it off, and then being a little over-enthusiastic with the right boot, and you soon find things get a little bit naughty. There is a certain irony to this. The BMW 3 Series Coupe is, in its own right, a very good car, and it doesn't share a single body panel with its sister, the 3 Series Saloon version. And yet, despite the enormous expense and amount of engineering involved in achieving that, it's been designed to look, well, pretty much like the 3 Series Saloon, really. In fact, it's longer, lower and wider than the Saloon and than the previous coupe, and it does have the same steeply raked front and rear windscreens that kind of define it as a coupe shape. But it is all very elegant and very understated. And the same can be said for the interior, where it's equally elegant and understated. And it's equally ironic that a car so often bought by the terminally brash should boast one of the most understated interiors on the market. Slide into the cockpit of any modern BMW, in fact, and you enter an environment designed to make you comfortable with maximum efficiency. Everything in the right place and everything built to last. Mind you, it's never going to win any prizes for being the most interesting place on earth to be. Standard equipment though is pretty good for the 3 Series Coupe. We've got electric seats on everything, air conditioning, safety has been given a high priority with 6 airbags in here, ABS and a sophisticated traction control system, and plenty of goodies in the cabin to play around with as well, including electric windows front and rear, and there's little touches like this that can make all the difference. The 3 Series Coupe accounts for a quarter of all UK sales in its sector, and that's a level of success you can't argue with. BMW must be getting something right with this car, and apart from the build quality and image, that probably starts with the combination of rear-wheel drive and strong engines. The straight 6 units are a real peach, and the 328 is a very fast peach indeed, strong and tractable with plenty of power right through the rev range. It really is a joy to drive and feed the power through into those rear wheels. You would expect the 3 Series Coupe to be something of a special drive, and it doesn't disappoint.
What we found was that our customers actually ordered lots of options on Coupe, much more so than the saloon variant. And so what we thought we would do with this one is give them what they actually wanted in the first place, but actually in overall terms, when you take account of the additional specification, the car is actually better value than the old one. We came in '92 with the previous car, and it was the first proper coupe that we had built, and immediately the market expanded. And a lot of competitors have now followed us into that sector. So it's gone from around 16,000 units a year up to 35,000 units a year, and we have 25% of that market. So we've actually, as you rightly say, have a fair stronghold on that market. And the principal reason we believe for that is that this coupe, perhaps even more so than its predecessor, is a very, very good mixture of style, because style is important in coupes. It has to look good, but also it's practical. BMW's philosophy has never been to be wild with its cars. It's an evolutionary styling, just as the saloon is. And I think that's really because we've found a style which our customers like, a family style. And if we were to change that, actually we risk alienating a lot of our customers. The feedback we get from our customers is they like it. It's identifiable as a BMW. It's not an extreme car. You can park it and people are not sort of gawking at it all the time and perhaps making the occupants feel embarrassed. But it's a nice mixture between restrained style and, as I've said before, practicality.
The new 3 Series Coupe will sell, and probably in enormous numbers, but when you think about it, for all the wrong reasons. For its pretty face, for its BMW badge. But if it looked like an old allotment shed and was labelled a lumpy doodah coupe, it would still be worth a look. Its sheer ability would overcome such disadvantages. Sure, it might be in the fashion end of the motor industry, but to use a fashion statement, BMW would tell you that their design is a timeless classic, and you know, I don't think they'd be that far wrong.
Now, my brief for today was quite straightforward. I've got a virtual £30,000 to spend. They want a review of a sporting touring or estate car, and it's going to be a BMW or an Audi. And straight away, I chose the Audi. Now, I know half of you have already fallen off your chair at that one. Yeah, BMW, it's one of the strongest brands in the world. Cracking 6-cylinder engine, rear-wheel drive, and all the street cred you could want. But I love Audis, always have done. I just think they're classy. Now, at first glance, the A4 might not look any different to the original car that was brought out about 5 years ago now, and that's probably intentional, because the sales figures for this body design have always been superb. In fact, it's probably safe to say that it was this A4 that really lifted Audi's image up alongside likes of BMW and Mercedes. So I guess it's a case of, if it ain't broke, don't try and fix it. But the flip side of that is that your customers want to see that you're moving with the times. Now, the Audi Quattro is renowned for its superb road holding and handling. In fact, some would say it almost handles too well. But the people at Audi have still improved it. They've stiffened up the suspension bushes, subframe and body shell, and even the brakes have had a bit of a rework. So now you still get the performance of Prince Nassim, but this time after 20 cups of coffee. And speaking of performance, it's drive time. Now, performance is certainly an issue with this particular A4. Although the engine range starts with a 1.6 petrol, under the bonnet of this one we've got a 2.8 litre V6 pushing out about 200 horsepower. And despite the extra weight of the Avant body style, performance figures are still really impressive. Top speed is 145 miles an hour, and 0 to 60 comes up in about 7.5 seconds, which is really good. Now, inside, Audi have gone to great lengths to really brighten up the interior. They've used lots of different materials and different layouts, because the biggest complaint of the old car was that it was just really dull, a bit like estate agents, and I should know. So apart from cornering that British Rail will be proud of and hot hatch acceleration, what else do you get for your 30 grand? Well, this model comes with air conditioning, ABS, driver passenger airbags, side impact bars, and as for boot space, well, there's 390 litres, which isn't brilliant when you think the BMW 328 has got 435, but that's a minor point. Otherwise, both cars are similar specs and performance. Now, a couple of the extra features that this car has got, well, we've got these gorgeous leather seats that I just want to take out and stick in front of the telly. And the best bit is this Tiptronic gearbox. Now, with the gear lever on the left, it behaves just like a normal automatic. No problems there, but if you fancy getting a bit sporty, you flip the lever over to the right, and so you're going down the motorway, you decide you want to overtake, or you do, put your foot down, notch the lever back, and away we go. And you can even do that off these buttons on the steering wheel. Now, without doubt, the biggest selling feature of this car is going to be the Quattro, or the four-wheel drive. Just driving it today, it feels so incredibly solid and sure-footed. You never once expect it to lose grip or go sideways on you. Just watch me put it in a hedge now. But for some people, that might be its downside, because if you've got any sort of boy racer in you, and you really want to get some back-out action, that sort of thing, then possibly the rear-wheel drive BMW is going to be more suited to you. But I think with this one, you can almost go round the roundabout, eat your lunch, and be on your mobile phone all at the same time without any fear of leaving the road. I'm only joking. Fantastic. I love this car. But don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that I don't like BMWs. On the contrary. But if we're looking at this and the 328 Tourer on paper, we've got similar price, we've got similar high specification, they've both got cracking 6-cylinder engines, and there's going to be no question about build quality because they're both German. So really it's down to two things. Firstly, the transmission. Do you want four-wheel drive in the Quattro, or do you want rear-wheel drive in the BMW? And the other one, which I think is going to be the big decider, is the badge, or more importantly the image. Which one of these do you want your neighbours to see? And I'm going to have to leave you pondering that one, because that's it for Carfile this week. But be sure to watch next week, because we've got a cracking show. We're doing sporty cars and super minis, so hopefully I'll see you then.